there's a continuity between the Old Testament and Islam.
There is no priesthood in Islam.
Yeah, but in a certain way, you too have the same problem, and I agree with you.
How is that a problem from my position? You said at the verse statement that there is continuity, and now there's not. Icons come out of the principle of God himself being an iconodual, because he gave to Israel all kinds of iconographic imagery in the temple and the tabernacle. When the early church set up its liturgical practices via the apostles crafted a liturgical worship service out of the temple and the synagogue liturgy. So it was natural for the church, because of them having altars in the first century. Paul in Hebrews 13 says that the church has an altar. And because we believe in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist and the sacraments, that sanctification of matter that he engaged in, it was therefore natural that the church would continue the Jewish practice of images. Pretty much everything that we do is derived from the Hebrew liturgy, whether temple or synagogue. This is even down to icons. So ancient synagogues, as you can see, the walls, they look exactly like Orthodox churches. And that's because the Orthodox Church and its liturgy developed out of the Jewish synagogue temple service. So look at the ancient Jewish priest, the high priest. He looks exactly like an Orthodox priest or bishop. We have an altar, Hebrews 13. So you see this divine liturgy image here? This is exactly what is identical to what's going on in Revelations chapters 5 through 8. We believe in the Orthodox Church that this event right here is the same event as here. The heavenly worship is on earth now. That's what Jesus brought for his church, which is different from what's going on in the Old Testament. In the Old Testament, you have a type, a symbol, a foreshadowing of the reality that is this. That table right there, that table, that is the altar of Hebrews 13 that Paul talks about. And it is this heavenly lamb liturgy that's mentioned here.
Can we talk about Islam?
Yeah, I might have to get all my Islam books out. What's up?
So I've seen your debate with Daniel Hakikachu, and I want to argue that there's a continuity between the Old Testament and Islam.
You mean you could try to argue that, but I can assure you it's not true.
All right. So one of your arguments is that there is not the altar, tabernacle, and the liturgy that was in the Old Testament.
Right.
But from the Islamic point of view, it is intended to correct and supersede the previous dispensations.
Okay, but the previous texts say that worship of the Melchizedekian priesthood is eternal. So how is it superseded if it's eternal?
Because it's intended to be universal. Because
that is universal. It's called the Christian Church. We have the Melchizedekian priesthood. There is no priesthood in Islam.
I mean, can I give you a verse?
Hold on. The Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool. The Lord shall send the rod out of your strength out of Zion. Rule in the midst of your enemies. Your people will be volunteers in the day of your power, in the beauty of your holiness from the womb of the morning. You have the dew of your youth. The Lord has sworn and will not rent. You are a priest forever according to the order of Melchizedek. So this is the priesthood of Christ. He's identified in the New Testament in Hebrews 7 as the fulfillment of the typology of Melchizedek. This is an eternal priesthood. I just read the passages in the book of Revelation where we saw the Lamb is worshipped in heaven. And I was just previously arguing right before you got here that that's the same thing as our liturgy. I know you don't believe that, but that's the continuity that we're talking about here. How in anybody's imagination would Islam have this continuity?
But then you quoted the New Testament, but as you know that Muslims don't confirm everything that is in the New Testament.
Then you don't. You just argued. Hold on. You just argued that you're in continuity with the Old Testament. Yes. The Old Testament here says there's an eternal priesthood of Melchizedek.
All right. So from my point of view is that when the scripture says, like in Surah Al-Ma'idah, that it confirms the old, what is in the old. It's not a word-for-word confirmation. It suggests a confirmation of the core messages and the prophecies. So
You said the verse statement that there is continuity, and now there's
Yes.
not. So do you understand this is arbitrary?
There's a continuity with the core message.
You don't know what the core message is. And it doesn't say that there's a continuity with the core message. It says that the Old Testament texts are not corrupted.
No, it says, how can I say that? It's like the Jews and the Christian and the 7th century, the concept of monotheism and the concept of the laws, how they apply.
Yeah, none of that's true. The Old Testament doesn't teach monotheism like you think. So, again, what you think is in continuity is just simply what the Quran says. And that's in question. And by the way, the Quran says, let the people of the gospel judge by what Allah has revealed in it. And those who do not judge by what Allah has revealed truly are rebellious. We have revealed to you this book of truth, confirming the previous scriptures.
Yes, but it's not a word for word confirmation.
You don't understand why that's a dumb argument? When you say it's not word for word, all that means is that I throw out anything that doesn't fit my position. So the previous scriptures are irrelevant. It's arbitrary.
Yeah, but in a certain way, you too have the same problem.
No, we don't. This is it's a false equivalence.
Okay.
Our theology doesn't contradict the Torah. It is the Torah.
That's not what some scholars were saying.
Who cares what some scholars? It's a fallacy. I could cite a million scholars against you. So what?
Something that you say often is that...
You just said some scholars don't say that. You still don't see how silly that argument is?
Can I make my point, please?
Why you keep blowing past bad arguments? Why would I accept some scholars say that's not true?
No, because you two have the same problem.
No, we don't. What is the problem?
Okay, for example, you say that there's scholars that say that there was two powers in heaven, and I agree with you that, and this time there was a sects of Judaism that thought that there was an interceders.
Yeah, that's just a Jewish admission that they weren't monolithic Unitarians.
And I agree with you.
How is that a problem for my position?
Because
that backs up my position.
It was seen as a heresy. It wasn't seen as the common thought of the Jews at the time of Jesus.
So what? That's assuming that the Jews know what is the correct position. We're not. Our Jews don't accept your position.
But
so who cares what Jews say?
At the time of Jesus, the regular Jew would have think that
no, that's your assumption. You don't know that,
and you too don't know.
No, I do know, because the New Testament tells me thousands of Jews were Christians. All of the early church are Jewish converts.
Yeah, but that's in question, and the Jews...
No, it's not. It's not in question. Your Quran says the followers of Jesus will be victorious, and Allah will make them victorious.
Yeah, but in the Islamic point of view, it was the same religion. Like,
did you not hear what I just argued? Who were the followers of Jesus in the first few centuries?
The Christians.
Okay, does the Quran say that Allah will make them victorious?
I mean...
Yes, it does. It's a famous verse, right?
Yes.
So you just ended your position right there.
No, because from how I understand
your argument was, but there's Jews who don't believe that. So what? Jews don't believe your position.
No, because you're saying that is, from what I understand of your point of view, you're saying that because there were some Jews that thought that there was...
No, you're just too slow to follow the argument. You guys literally can't conceive of what arguments are and what the argument is. The argument was just to show that Judaism in the 1st and 2nd centuries was not monolithic. That's all the argument was intended to show.
Yes.
I'm not arguing that we're Benitarian.
Okay, but when you agree that Islam doesn't have a continuity with that, you're agreeing that you're right and the other sects of Judaism are wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but why are they wrong? Because
the Old Testament teaches the things that I'm arguing.
From your point of view.
So?
But from them.
So now it's relativized to everybody's point of view? Come on, dude, get out of here with this nonsense.